Okay, let's bring the meeting to order. Do we have any staff or trustee additions or deletions to the agenda?
Staff has no additions or deletions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Move on to adoption of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carries. And I'm gonna move on to our public comments. Mr. Logan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's nice to be here tonight. I took a chance of driving from the south end of the county all the way up to the north end. I'm a little confused. Are you gonna take the comments in order of the items as they're listed on the agenda?
Got these four here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I'll just wait till you get to.
This is just general comments. If you have anything,
Like my comment was made.
generally,
Thank you very much. Mr.
I
Chairman.
appreciate it, Mr. Loker. Any other general comments before we move on from public comments? Just want to double check. I'd really like to put up and, all right. Moving on to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
The motion in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right. Got some new business here. Let me see. Not down to that. Do we have new business here, Dale? I'm
There
sorry.
is none.
Okay. No new business. And any unfinished business?
You ready?
Yes, sir. I'm more ready.
Okay, first item, Mr. Chairman, deals with the response from Palms Medical Group to RFP 2024-002. And just to remind the trustees, a couple of months ago, you discussed that there was one option pertaining to providing medical services on campus that had not been explored, and that was the concept of the authority owning its own clinic and then finding an individual entity to operate it on your behalf. And so on that basis, an RFP was issued. It required a mandatory pre-proposal conference. There was only one company that responded to the mandatory pre-proposal conference, and that was Palms. You acknowledged that at a meeting, and then, of course, a proposal was submitted. Since then, the proposal has been reviewed by both Mr. Powell and I. With Mr. Powell's assistance, he kind of prepared a spreadsheet which kind of shows the answers from the Palms proposal to the various questions that were asked of them for submission. And so I am going to defer to Mr. Powell to let him review that work product. But before I do, I want to introduce Anita Rembert. She is the CEO of Palms. She is here, and I'm sure that she would be glad to answer any questions you may have while here. So with that, unless there are questions from the trustees, I'll defer to Richard.
Okay, so all of the trustees that was posted online have about a 4-page summary. Does everyone have it? Yeah, found it, and I'll go over it, and realizing that not everyone in the audience has one, I'll read it. Okay, so as Dale mentioned, the object of our RFP was to establish a modern health clinic in the old PT building, and then to have it operated by a qualified group. Object is to provide extremely high quality health care in this area of the county and for everyone. Okay, so we had specific criteria in the RFP. One was experience in developing construction renovation of community health centers. the Palms Medical Group began operating with one federally qualified health center in Trenton, Florida in 1971 and has expanded to 14 health centers in North Florida. All locations were either new construction or were extensively renovated commercial buildings. So Palms is very qualified to produce the building that we desire. Experience in operating community health centers. Palms is a 501c3 not-for-profit organization that operates 14 delivery sites in Alachua, Bradford, Clay, Columbia, Gilchrist, Levy, and Suwannee counties. They have 2 in Columbia County. Palms currently cares for approximately 65,000 patients and offers a wide range of primary care services. As a FQHC, Palms receives some direct federal funding and accepts most public and private insurances, including Medicare and Medicaid. For uninsured patients, Palms provides a sliding fee scale based on income. However, no one is denied medical care due to lack of insurance or income. The next criteria was the estimated time frame to design, construct, and make operational the Lakeshore Hospital Community Health Center. Okay, I've reviewed this carefully with Anita and her staff. And so the first step is to design the building, prepare all of the necessary documents for bidding, solicit the bids, and award the construction, the contract. Their time frame to do that is 90 days. Be very efficient. Construction of the facility is basically 1 year. And I confirmed this with Anita, but preparation for opening the health center is basically 2 days after it's completed. Add all that up and it's 15 months. The list of services to be provided, if you flip over about 2 pages, you see the scope of work, healthcare services, and I won't read them all, but it's extremely extensive. And at the bottom, it states that the dental services, which are not going to be directly included, will be provided through referrals to Palms Medical East, located at 173 Northwest Albritton Avenue in Lake City. So it'll be offered, but it'll be through referral. Okay, so the maximum subsidies for operating losses. In year 1, it would be $850,000. Year 2, $850,000. Year 3, $200,000. For all years thereafter, it would be 0. Obviously, the first 3 years, you're building up your practice and your billings just so that the center supports, but you're offering full quality services in those years. Okay, we wanted to have proposals from very qualified, financially stable organizations. We didn't want startups or organizations that were not substantial. So we required net assets in excess of $5 million and net working capital of $2 million. I reviewed the Palms audit, which was May 31, 2024. You can see the net assets were $74,641,000, very substantial. Net working capital almost over $45 million. So they well exceeded the requirements. So now I prepared. I prepared a financial analysis, but first of all, the last thing I want to mention is that you could say, what would happen if Palms were to leave early, within the first 3 years after paying subsidies, et cetera. And so Palms had agreed they would, repay the authority 50% of the fees and subsidies paid for in the termination year. Palms, regardless, would always give a 1-year notice of leaving. They have proposed an initial 5-year term. Okay, so now I'd like to quickly go over the financial analysis. And that is the last page. So the health center would be operated through the patient care fund. Funds in the patient care funds are basically accumulated ad valorem taxes and interest. And so it is clearly restricted for healthcare. So in year 1, that's the year we're in right now, there would be a cost to hire the Palms to hire the architects, engineers to get the plans, the permitting, all of it. That would be a fixed fee of $52,000 for all of that. The construction of the clinical facility, we're estimating it at $3 million. Again, this would be bid, and the authority would approve the plans and the layout of the building. And so I've projected that to be half spent in the current fiscal year, half spent in the succeeding fiscal year. Palms is requesting the $40,000 owner construction supervision, and that's fixed at $40,000, again, to be paid over the current fiscal year and the succeeding fiscal year. Palms has furnished a list of the necessary equipment, which includes X-ray equipment and all of the types of equipment and furniture needed for a nice modern clinic. That would be $426,500. And again, the equipment is owned by the authority. The building is owned by the authority. The operating subsidy, basically it ends up the 1.9 million. And again, this is the maximum subsidy. If it's very successful, that subsidy would be lower. It's a backup. And so the total estimated outlay for the current year is $1,572,000. The succeeding fiscal year, $2,371,500. In 27, $850,000. In 28, $625,000. And then you can see after those are over, you have no more subsidies, you have no more outlays. The revenues here, we already have a budget, assuming we continue to earn about 4 to 5%. It'd be $300,000 the first year and then decline. The ending fund balance of this patient care fund would be $7.2 million at the end of the first year, $5 million, $4.3 million, $3.8 million, $4 million. Okay, so with what is not included in here, and it's an unknown, and we frankly hope that it will be substantial, is that the authority will pay Palms for patient fees for authority patients in accordance with the Lakeshore Hospital policy, which would be amended to conform to the Palms policy, except that it would only apply to Columbia County residents. And so, and the more patient fees you pay in the early years, that would reduce the subsidy, obviously. So in Palms' proposal, they have submitted a suggested agreement. The next step would be an agreement, and so I would think that the first action hopefully would be to decide that you'd like to do this or not do this, and then the second step would be to formulate an agreement that would have all of the appropriate terms in it. So, any questions?
Here,
Yes, sir.
Chappelle, what, for the purpose of public discussion, what would, do we have any idea of what the cost would be? I see the cost to renovate PT building and buy equipment. Do we have any idea what the cost would be to build a new building somewhere else? I know you're not a construction manager, so I don't want to put you on the spot. Maybe the chair could answer this question best, but, or maybe the representative from Palms could, they may know as well, but would it be advantageous to look at that? I know we have a building here on this campus, but I mean, if we were to go 47 and 75 or 41 and 75 or somewhere, you know, maybe we look and see where services may be possibly needed more. Not saying that there is a place.
You're saying new construction versus
Sure.
this renovation?
Yeah.
As we discussed this with Palms, Dale and I did in some of our preliminary discussions, and it was stated that that new construction would take a lot longer because of all the permitting and everything, and that this would not be as, and it was our goal. And then it was our belief that the board wanted to try to replace some of the lost healthcare in this, I'll call it a quadrant in this area of the county.
I believe there's a definite need for healthcare in this area. There's nothing available. And you can drive down the street, you got all kinds of places.
You want to take public comment?
I was going to when we get to the next thing. Right now, I think we're just in discussion of the unfinished. Is that?
Yeah, but
correct?
it says discussion of possible action.
Are we there yet? Did we? How does that work, Al? Did we move from the unfinished business to this line item?
This is unfinished business.
This is just unfinished business.
Yeah, but it says discussion and possible action. I thought we were supposed to take public comment prior to.
Well, y'all have been historically
Yeah.
taking public comment
Right,
before
and I
you
would hate for any
discuss.
motion to be made and then somebody say we got
Okay,
public comment.
so let's do that. You want to, let's move to public comments here. I know Miss Lindley's got her hand raised.
Mr. Kenny, what there?
That's the way we've been doing it.
Okay, let's do that.
The only
That's
place
all right.
is
No,
anyway.
I thought we were still on the unfinished and then we'd move to it, but that's fine. So I know Miss Lindley's been hounding me. I want to get her first. Okay. Miss Lindley,
Yes, I can hear you.
all right.
My first question, and maybe I won't get an answer, who actually prepared the RFP? This does not sound like or appear to be anything that came from Dale Williams. Can you provide me with who assisted Dale in this RFP? Yes or no?
You want to answer that?
Yeah, Miss Lemley, I would have written the majority of that, but now it was plagiarized. There's
Okay.
plenty of examples of these types of projects. Bits and pieces came from various areas. A lot of the financial requirement was added by Richard. So it was it was a committee effort, but they came from various different proposals from different areas.
Okay, my next question is, Mayo wanted the same building for her operation. Is she been thrown to the trash under the bus now?
It will
Yes or no?
depend on the decision of the trustees. There are actually two different proposals.
Okay,
In this particular proposal, we're talking about a county-owned healthcare clinic hiring an operator to provide a certain amount of services. In Dr. Mayo's proposal, she basically would be a tenant. And the difference would be is the authority board is limited as to what support they can give someone who is simply a tenant. So the answer to your question cannot be determined until the trustees make a decision.
okay, thanks for your response. My next question is something Mr. Bill referenced is a new building. And the authority can give the vacant lot that was a parking lot. And even Ludi Ship many years ago realized that the county, the authority, did not need to be in the healthcare business. And you board members need to take that into consideration. Plus the other thing, subsidies. Why are we subsidizing a not-for-profit when the voters of Columbia County on a straw ballot wanted to get rid of the authority? I think you're putting the cart in front of the horse, and hopefully this board will be dissolved by an act of the legislature. And the next thing is you've got the county health department across the street. Why is the authority not coordinating with the county health department? You probably can't give me an answer now, but that's something that needs to be considered. And I am adamantly opposed to Palms may do a good thing, but their main clinic is 2 miles away. And what about the south end of the county where there are
Ms.
also
Lindley, we're-
underserved?
Okay. We're
They
time, Ms.
took up a
Lindley.
lot of my time, so I want a few more minutes, please.
Mr. Chair, that was questions being answered.
Yes. Ms. Lindley, I appreciate it. All right, let's see, Mr. Lilker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's Stu Local, Columbia County Observer. However, I'm here at this place as a citizen, as I've been following LSHA Hospital Authority since 2006. And I'm a resident of the south end of Columbia County. I'd like to point out to Mr. Kennedy. His explanation is when Mr. Kennedy brought up that the public speaks before a proposition is made. It's not the way he does it. It's not the way he did it in Lake City. That was cleared up. It was after the proposition. And because Mr. Kennedy says it, doesn't make it legal. For some reason, Mr. Kennedy doesn't like people to discuss or know what any proposition before the board is before they discuss something. I have no idea what you're doing. I will say this, that I did in Palm years ago, that's up in 5 Points. Can't beat the place, if you're building a dental clinic up there, dental clinic, then every place you go with Palm Medical is top notch in first class. These folks clearly know what they're doing. Unlike the hospital authority, which doesn't. This is now going on 4 years, over $3 million spent to keep the building empty. Could have built them a building in the south end of the county for that money that you squandered in Columbia County of taxpayer money, public money. But we don't want anybody to discuss anything after a proposition is made, like it's supposed to be legally done on this board. That's one of the best RFPs I've seen. And I don't know where, it was good. What Dale plagiarized, but boy, I gotta tell you, it sure does look like Palm Medical. I had a finger in that plum. Sure does. Answered line for line. And I'd also like to know why the south end of the county wasn't investigated. Palm Medical has wrote an article today about that. Two places, 2 Palm Medical health centers within 6 miles of this building. The south end of Columbia County has nothing. Lakeshore Hospital Authority is not the Lake City Hospital Authority. Lakeshore Hospital Authority is a special district which encompasses all of Columbia County. And I suggest you look at the map that I put up in the article. Lake City is a tiny, tiny bit in the whole county. And why you guys are derelict in your duty for not exploring, why don't you want to put a healthcare center, home would be perfect, in the south end of the county? You have 3,000 residents in Three Rivers, which is on the way to High Springs or on the way to Gainesville. That's just short-sightedness. And that's one of the reasons, and I'm done now, I see my time is up, that obviously Mr. Kennedy doesn't want people speaking after the public finds out what you guys are going to do. Thank you very much, Mr. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Loker. Ms. Sue, do you have any comments? You selected this one. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I don't have a copy of what he was just talking about.
This is just for the discussion and possible action for the RFP from Palms Medical.
Is there any copy for the public to look at, or is it, you can't write down what Mr. Powell was saying, it's.
I think it's all online, right?
It's all
Yeah,
on.
we posted it all online previously.
I didn't see it when I went online, but I'm not saying you didn't,
Yes, ma'am.
but there's no copy, hard copy right now.
I've got mine, but I've got notes on it, but no, I don't have any extra hard copies.
And you couldn't get that from people like myself that,
That's why we post them online
well, where do you go online to get them?
to our website, right? Yeah,
Dale, would you get with her after the meeting?
Yeah.
On this? Show her.
but yeah, it's all available there online.
All right. Well, it's difficult when you get here, when
Yes.
somebody's talking numbers.
Yes, ma'am. Are there any other public comments on this item? Okay. All right, ongoing discussion. I actually had a question for you, Ms. Bryant. How many employees was Palm planning on using to run the facility, or do you have an estimate on that?
Yeah, we're looking at about 15 to 20 for the first year.
How
And
come?
around growth.
How many?
15 to 20.
15 to 20. That's for the first year,
Yes, sir.
and then after,
Depending on growth. We base everything based off of patient numbers, so we won't hire until we have enough patients to cover the next round of providers and nurses.
could be up to twice that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I hate to interrupt, but it was in my presentation,
Oh, I'm sorry.
her beginning, her budget, her beginning FTEs are basically 19 and average wage is 77,000. So it's a good economic, and these are all new jobs, they're not being transferred.
You're right.
gotcha.
I didn't hear what you just said.
Okay, I said that, for the budget that Palm submitted, that was a requirement. Their first year projections and an FTE full-time equivalent, yeah, it might be. So, the FTE is 19. And the average salary is 77,000. And these are all new jobs. 79, sorry, Anita, 79. 2,000 means, yeah. I had it written down.
For sure.
Yes, sir.
Would Palms have any, I don't know if you, I'm sure you have, you're a big corp company, have any interest in exploring other areas of Columbia County in addition to this?
We've actually looked at some other areas in Columbia County, over the years. So
It's
there's
about $19 million we need to get rid of here pretty quick, so. Buy some land and build another one on the south end of the county. I like your idea, Stu.
say though, just into the county, there isn't much in pediatrics.
Right.
That's kind of what we've been talking about, is thinking, trying to gear towards some more peds, here in this end of the county. So that was our focus a little bit.
As I know they're located in Branford, I see that one all the time, they've got a pharmacy there too. And this is, I can't, I'm probably in there, I'm just gonna ask, the pharmacy with this one?
Yes, so
Okay.
we have, not on day one. So on day one, a pharmacy will not pay for the pharmacist. So we build up time, build up our patient base, and then we add pharmacies in as needed.
If there was a need for a pharmacy on this one, if, say Meridian wanted to contract with you guys as well, is that something you'd be interested in looking at?
So Palms, the way we operate is, we only are a pharmacy for our patients.
Okay,
So if it's a person on the street who doesn't utilize Palms as their primary care, they can't get a prescription filled there. So it has to be our patients, so. Our patients from Brantford that work in Lake City,
Mhm.
yes, they could come here and get their pharmacy or their prescription filled, but they have to be a Palms patient to utilize our pharmacy. So, a little bit different.
And I'm taking a page out of Mr. Beal. I haven't constructed a medical facility in a long, long time. Out of curiosity right now, you're probably more familiar than me, roughly per square foot. Do you dare
Brand new
take a
construction?
chance?
We have not done a brand new construction ground up in a little while, but, the contractors that we have dealt with, we've talked to, we're looking at about $400 a foot.
Okay. My guess was a 375, so yeah, that's okay. It's going up. So that tells you the difference there, guys. What's this? Yeah, I'm sure it's probably more or less half the cost to do that. To do renovate. Yes, sir.
Mr. Bill,
I haven't.
I'm sure it was in this, I have read and read and read until I've tired of reading, but days of the week,
So typically operate, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We talked about some Saturday weekend hours, but again, that's also to build up that patient panel. So we try to save our staff. Most people want to work that Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So once we get up enough patients, we can rotate Saturday clinics. That's what we try to work on.
and in the services provided, the one that I guess I need some clarification on, what is 24-hour provider availability? What does that mean?
So that means you can call at 2 o'clock in the morning and, it'll go to our on-call service. They'll get a hold of a nurse. The nurse will call you back, assess what you need. And, they'll give you advice, and if needed, they'll contact the provider and the provider will contact you back.
Okay.
So
Great, thank you, ma'am.
I did want to note on that list of services, it has X-ray services.
Yes,
and we
ma'am.
have that in our budget for, equipment and things like that. Just completely transparent. X-ray, personnel has been extremely difficult to hire. So, want to offer those services, but it will be dependent upon hiring the right person for that job. So just to be completely transparent about that, we are having difficulty hiring X-ray personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, I'm laughing about that. I'm 78 years old and they called me for a job to go to X-ray.
See? We'll put you to work.
They want to work in X-ray.
I don't think there's enough X-ray techs out there. They're not making new ones, so. I don't know.
Because they don't advertise X-ray. They advertise nursing. They advertise a lot of the other specialties, but not X-ray. They never have.
For job postings or?
No, for training,
Oh, yes, ma'am.
and it is a minimum of 2 years training.
Actually, for the X-ray, just to put a plug in, for the X-ray that we need is basic X-ray. You can challenge the test and take the test without having to do your requirement. So if anybody wants to go to X-ray school, let us know.
Did not know that. Part of that 24-hour access, if you're related to me, that just means you call my wife. That's what we've learned. I don't have anything I don't have any more questions
Okay.
for you.
Okay, sure.
Does the board have any more questions before we? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on this, members of the board?
What would be the guidance from, staff? Mr. Williams, Mr. Powell, Mr. Kennan?
I think the only option at this point is for the board to consider whether they wish to proceed with having a contract prepared between the authority and Palms Medical. Now, not getting too far ahead of myself, obviously, that's a contract that you will not be able to sign until a couple of issues are resolved locally. So we can go ahead though and take the time to have that step completed, where any discussions will be hopefully complete when the time does come and we can make a final decision.
I think it's a good idea.
Well, I'm trying to look in Mr. Williams' crystal ball. I assume issues that are resolved locally are the same issues that are currently.
Yeah, we have the city zoning
Thank you.
issue.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all. Well, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and direct staff to dot the i's and cross the t's with Palm Medical. Dependent upon the issues that were just mentioned, without going into further details, which will be later revealed in this meeting.
Is that a motion?
That was a motion.
I heard a motion, yes, ma'am.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second from the board to direct staff to move forward with preparing a contract for Palms Medical. We'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Jansen? Oh,
Yes.
you did it.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Says you pass it
Sure.
again.
If it's possible, Mr. Powell or Bill,
Yes.
could we get a copy of that, how the sliding scale works, do you think?
Sure, yes. Look at this, Anita may have it.
To be fair, it was probably a report, you just missed it, but we'll take it.
No, it was not, it was not.
This is the way Williams
See
do
it.
it every.
I printed a copy.
Thank you.
Not sure how many I have, so I'm getting to them. This is our application.
Thank you.
It's fairly straightforward.
And,
Thank you, ma'am.
and in the concept, Mr. Bill, everyone pays something, even if they're an authority patient at the Medicaid rate.
That's based off of the federal poverty guidelines, so it strictly goes by the federal poverty guidelines that are published every year in January. We look at your income, that's all we look at. We don't look at anything else, we don't look at assets, we don't look at liability, it's strictly income. We ask for, I think it's 3 pay stubs, a bank statement, things like that, just to prove your income. We ask for that annually. And it's, you see it, it's fairly straightforward. It can be completed in the office. Any questions about that? I'm sorry to bring extras. I just.
Well, could
Brought it
somebody
in.
share theirs so I could
Sure.
look at it?
Fine.
Thank you.
That's also on Palm's website, but you're welcome to go there too and look at that for any patient files that are there.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Mrs. Rembert. Is it Rembert? Thank you.
I was gonna say Rembrandt, so.
It's okay.
there we go. All right. So we're moving on from that item, over to discussion and possible action for the current status of Columbia County 2024 straw ballot, regarding Lakeshore Hospital Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, trustees. I want to have a discussion with you pertaining to the straw ballot that was on the November general election, or that was voted on in the November general election. I think that was about a 65-35 vote yes to collapse and dissolve the Lakeshore Hospital Authority. Now, what I understand and what I know may be two different things, so I'm going to try to let you know what I've been told up to this point. Number one is the county commission was asked to prepare a local bill, which is on their agenda for this coming Thursday night, which basically would dissolve the authority, and it speaks to the transfer of the assets of the authority. I pulled a copy of that off their agenda today, and I believe you now have a copy of that. So you can read it, but basically what it says in summary is that the bill calls for the dissolution of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority, the transfer of its real, personal, and mixed property to the county commission, transfer of all cash to the county commission subject to a restriction that it be expended only for indigent care and public health purposes, and for the creation of a public health advisory board to provide guidance to the county commission on issues relating to public health and indigent care. There's two documents that are attached to this. One is the proposed local bill. The other is a resolution which would be adopted by the county commission, which appoints the, what are they calling it? Public Health Advisory Board. So those documents were taken today from the county website. And they were produced based on what I had been told at the request of our legislative delegation, which of course is Senator Bradley and Representative Brannon. I myself have had conversations with our legislative delegation, one as early as this morning. And what I've been asked to do is to pretty much put together a status report of where the authority is, what its assets are, what programs we've been working on. In other words, you know, what do we have with the authority? Where are we at on various proposals? That type of thing. If you have any comments or you would like to comment and have me add anything to what I'm going to put together for them, then please get with me. I'll be more than glad to do it. But where this is all headed is there is a legislative hearing, and constitutionally in Florida, legislators are required to hold a hearing in the counties they represent, and they ask the public for comment about what they would like to see and not see from the legislature. It's part of the Constitution. Been to many of them. Many people in this room have been to many of them. I think the intent for the legislative delegation, local bills require a public hearing locally in order to be submitted. I think that would occur, or they would try to do that at that legislative hearing. The hearing is on the 8th. It's at Florida Gateway College. It's at 9 a.m. So what I am going to do is what I was asked to do, and that is to put together a package. I will try my very best to explain the assets of the authority, what the nature of those assets were, where we're at with the various proposals that we've been working with. I will put all of that in written form and I will submit it to our legislative delegation. I strongly suggest that if you can, you maybe go to the January 8th legislative hearing. I don't know that you would speak, but you can if you want to. But, you know, it certainly wouldn't hurt if you felt like you should be there. If I get any feedback once I submit the information requested, certainly you'll be the first to know. But that's kind of where this is. Again, in summary, the county has prepared a proposed local bill. I kind of read a summary of what that bill does. I've been asked to put together an information packet and submit it to the delegation, which I will do. Obviously, I'll send you a copy of that, and if there's anything you would like for me to include in that, please let me know. And then we'll have a legislative hearing on the 8th. That is a Wednesday, is it not, January 8th?
Yes. For sure. Calendar. Before we do that, you want to open it up for public comments? Ms. Phillip, do you have a comment?
Yes, I'm Susan Phillip. I live at 240 Northeast Laguna Drive in Lake City. Will this public hearing be advertised? You'll see it in the paper that there's gonna be this or not?
This board won't advertise it, but it already has been advertised once.
In the
and-
Lake City?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
so
Okay,
from-
and I would assume it will get more exposure. It normally does.
Right.
But,
And this meeting on Thursday, that's a prelude to this reasoning for having a legislative hearing?
no, ma'am, the legislative hearing is a constitutionally required act that the delegation must do prior to the session. The county commission is meeting Thursday night, and on their agenda is the local I'm sorry, 9:30. Yes, Stu's right. It's a morning meeting.
Oh, you meet on Thursday?
Yes, they meet at 9:30. I forget they meet one day of them. One of their two meetings is an AM meeting. But anyway, they will be deciding the language of the local bill. And they will be deciding whether they accept the language of the resolution. And I suspect they will, and that's what they'll be submitting to the delegation.
And the legislative hearing will be deciding what?
Well, they will decide, the legislators, whether they're going to carry this local bill as presented up to Tallahassee and
And the
present.
bill is about the dissolution of
Yes,
the Lakes
yes.
Shore Hospital.
Yes, ma'am.
And that will be discussed on January 8th at 9 a.m.
9 a.m. at Florida Gateway College, and I didn't read, but I'm sure it's the library.
I think it's the trust, the conference room where they have the meetings, I believe is what it said.
And this meeting on Thursday is going to be at 9:30 a.m.
At 9:30 a.m. and it's at the school board building.
And one other thing is Mr. Kennedy was mentioning about the vote. So I understand when I was looking at the board's website that you break for like a couple of weeks in December.
Yeah.
So could these decisions be put off till after you come back? Since.
Well, these decisions aren't having anything to do with the staff that will be there. These guys aren't off.
Oh, okay. It's
Yeah.
just the staff.
Yes.
Gotcha. I understand. I thought you were all closing down.
No, they have to work right on when they're needed.
Gotcha. Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Mr. Loker?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe that, and I don't know as a fact, that the legislative delegation meeting constitutes a public hearing. In what you're mentioning, I think you have to have a regular, the last time they had a public hearing is when they approved the most recent legislation in 2005 for this. I don't know if anybody knew about it. But that was a public hearing. I don't know if the legislative delegation constitutes a public hearing under the law to have a public hearing about dissolving the Lake Shore Hospital Authority. My understanding is, and Dale pretty much said it, that he's been lobbying Brannon and Bradley. My understanding is that he's been lobbying them to keep this an independent district. But I could be, he's shaking his head no, but I could be wrong. I've heard that from the grapevine.
Well, you heard wrong as
That's
usual.
fine. But let's get it out and know.
Okay.
It's right in the public. Because I'm pretty much offended the way this whole meeting is going, like, nobody even knows what the motion is before the motion's made. I think that clock may be wrong. Gathering $20+ million of ordinance of property and financial liquid assets does not constitute something that can be done in a resolution. The county, and I checked this out, is gonna have to have an ordinance. And what the resolution basically does, if you don't know, and you can get that off the county website, is set up an independent district for the county. They couched it different, sort of like if Mr. Kennedy would come here dressed as Miss America, but we really would know Mr. Kennedy. Tell by hair. And that's what the county is doing. They're making a special district for medical care. And if you read it, that's what it says. That's what the resolution, they're gonna have to make an ordinance. So they're really doing a run around the law. And I would respectfully point out to this board that the public voted against continuing with the Lake Shore Hospital Authority. When I met with Representative Brandon 3 years ago, with Barbara, he agreed that a trust, a healthcare, indigent care trust fund would be a good idea and a good use of the public funds. Not giving $5 million to an outfit, and you guys run the best outfit, and great to see that a woman is running it. You guys should run everything. Not to give $5 million to a not-for-profit that really does make a profit. To set up a clinic in an area where there's already 2 clinics in a local hospital. You're not going by the will of the people. And with all respect, and I'm done, to my friend, Mr. Beal, the rush to judgment to dispose of the hospital's assets before the legislative delegation comes up with their public hearing and the legislature approves this, it's just disingenuous and it's not right. The public has spoken. It's about time this hospital board, governor's board, listen to the public. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Swift.
Please.
Any public comments on the item at hand? Before I keep going.
Here.
Mr. Beal.
I just want to remind everybody that a straw ballot is really like an opinion. So whenever a commenter took my comments seriously, I guess that's kind of like a straw ballot. It's an opinion of what my comments were. There were a few other chuckles from behind the dais, and I think people realized that I was being a little bit of a smart behind. So I apologize for being a smart behind with my previous comments. But you know, I'll continue. That's my first comment. My second one is, we really don't know. I can't figure out what the county's trying to do. First it was, we're going to put this straw ballot on. It has to go to the legislature. Then it comes back to another ballot before the citizens on like a real actual ballot, not an opinion poll. And then now, then at one of their previous meetings, they said, well, hold on, we've found out we can kind of skirt that and do like they did Reedy Creek and change it from an independent taxing district to a dependent taxing district. And we can save $80,000 to $100,000 by not putting it back on the ballot to let the people like decide for real, like an actual real ballot, not a straw ballot. And then now what they're writing up that they're going to present Thursday doesn't talk about a dependent district. So it's like they're kind of going back and forth and they're trying to figure out a way. And, I feel like I wish that somebody from the county was here. I kind of feel like maybe they're a little upset that we didn't give them the 2-story building, or maybe, it's like a race to see who can get the land and the money first. Is it the city or the county? Mm-hmm. So again, my straw ballot in my mind of what the county is doing, my opinion, is they're trying to grab some money and they're trying to figure out the quickest way to do that. I'm talking about a public health board, so, you know, it's indigent care and public health, so they're trying to figure something out. Mr. Kennan, maybe one day you can explain to me the difference. You know, we talked about the process that would happen to dissolve it, to dissolve a special act of the legislature. This is what it requires. Well, then they found out, hey, we can make it a dependent district. Maybe my understanding of
And
it.
that's gonna be up to the legislature and whether what rules and protocols they have.
But I
I mean,
mean,
that's gonna be up to them and not
Sure.
us.
their
but-
draft bill doesn't say anything about a dependent district.
Right, and it may be that they're gonna submit the bill with the intention that if it's passes by the legislature, I'm not aware of any end around, so to speak, but it would come back to the voters, and it may be that they're just trying to get their cart before the horse and have these things in place so that if that does occur, they're not waiting, you know, for months and months to get things in place, to get stuff drafted, to get it approved. And I'm reading between the lines, 'cause I don't know, I got it the same time you did today. Is that they may just be getting, you know, their ducks in a row if it goes the way they want it to.
But to me, it seems like they're kind of trying everything to make it go as quick as possible. And the reason that we're still meeting today, yeah, 65% of the people that voted said, yeah, let's get rid of this taxing authority. Well, it didn't say let's get rid of the independent taxing authority and go to a dependent, let the county tax us. That's not what the people said. The straw ballot said, let's get rid of this taxing authority. Now they're talking about a dependent. Now this bill doesn't say anything about a dependent board. If we're gonna get rid of taxes, let's get rid of taxes altogether. Let's, you know,
boy.
as a taxpayer, hey, I'm all for it, by all means. But we're still meeting today and next month and the next month because we're still responsible for the millions of dollars that we have. I could be watching Monday Night Football right now, you know, I mean, and sure, let's dissolve it, but let's do it the right way. And let's continue until that's done. Let's continue with what we're supposed to be doing. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
just to make sure it's understood. The whole concept of dependent tax districts was never discussed with me with the legislative delegation. And I didn't initiate the call. The call was initiated by the legislator. So nobody's been lobbied. And I certainly am not out advocating for a dependent taxing district. However, when the county commission first brought up the idea, Mr. Powell and I did go to the county commission meeting. We did provide them with some things they may want to consider. Those were rejected, and that's their prerogative. That's been the end of it.
I went back and watched that meeting, Mr. Williams, just, being retired, don't have anything else to do, so. And I did see Mr. Powell go up there and basically, tell the county commission, that, you know, they needed to be careful because, you don't want to give up the ability to levy a tax. And correct me if I'm wrong, and that the words that you somewhat used.
Well,
and-
and I don't mean to interrupt you, you may, but also the ability to issue bonds for healthcare entities.
Thank you. Yes, and,
Which to me is more important.
right, and I agree with everything that Mr. Powell, that's Mr. Powell, that's Mr. Beal, said just a little while ago, and I think I heard the same thing from the voters, and that was, we don't like being taxed. And, I think that, you know, maybe we ought to give a rebate back to the taxpayers. And who have paid their taxes for the last 25, 30 years plus, and give them their money back, and then let the county start over, anew.
I'd
That's
second
just
that
my
motion, the
opinion.
heartbeat, if we can put that on the January. If we could do it before Christmas, it'd be even better.
Yeah, but, you know, I don't know what, Mr. Chairman, what do we need to do on this as far as further instructions to Mr. Williams, Mr. Powell, and Mr. Kenny? I like including you three.
I mean, there's nothing from a legal standpoint we can do. It's gonna be up to the legislature
I got you.
following their rules, and then the county will, I
And then
guess,
we'll wait.
go from what the legislature
Right.
does. That'll control what the county can do there.
And we'll await the document that you and Mr. Williams and Mr. Powell prepare for the county commission, so we can look at it and review it and add to, delete.
The legislature will provide the
I'm sorry,
document.
onto the legislature, not to the county. Thank you.
But everything that will be in that document, you've already been exposed to.
Yes, sir.
It's just collecting the information, putting it in a format, because they don't want to make a decision in a vacuum. They want to know and understand what's going on before they make a decision.
Right,
And I commend them for that.
I agree. Yep. I think one of our board members made the comment to our local paper that taxation without representation. And I think I've only been on this board now for 3 years, but I think that we have represented our duties very well, very diligent. It's quite evident by the tax that's levied every year.
Yeah.
And has been. Mr. Bullard, you've been here for a year now and you've been very diligent and I like representation without compensation, to be quite frank. But I don't think we can convince our county commissioners to do that free. Anyway, go ahead.
Reach.
That's not a direct quote either.
Continue to see, is it?
I love it.
I don't mean to be nice.
So there's really, yeah,
No, it's informational,
It's
but I want you to know that if there's anything specific you would like for me to include in the material I'm going to prepare, let me know.
do it. All right, let's move on to the next item unless there's any additional comments for that from the board. Okay. We'll move on, discussion and possible action, Lake Shore Hospital Authority meeting rules and procedures policy amendment to provide for completion of a speaker card for Zoom meeting participants.
At your previous meeting, the trustees decided they were going to continue with Zoom meetings. You did state, however, you would like to see a speaker card for those people that intend to speak when they tune in online, when they participate online. So we have amended the procedures, the meeting rule procedures, to require a speaker card from those persons. We are asking, based on the way it's written, that that be returned no later than 12 o'clock the day of the meeting. And in order, now this is not in the package, but in order to help with that, I hope to work with Carl or somebody where on our website, we can just make that speaker card a fillable form. They can hit a send button, it can go straight to Sonia. So it's not going to be something difficult for somebody who wants to participate to do. We're going to try to make it as simple as possible. But you did ask for the speaker card, so we're trying to provide the mechanism to do that.
Excellent. Makes my
So if
job a
you-
little easier.
Public comments, I guess.
Oh, that's right, sorry. Any public, I'm sorry,
I
Mr.
don't mean
Loker.
to take over the meeting.
No, you're right, I forgot, Mr. Loker. Sorry, I was excited because it helps me decipher what I see online. I forget to look down here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm way up here, way too much tonight, but at least we know what the proposition will be. This morning and last night, I reviewed the minutes of the whole year. Trying to find where this any word about any sort of consensus, where this discussion of what you guys are doing or planning to do tonight was in the minutes, and it's not. There was no vote. I just sort of recall a general discussion. There was no asking of consensus. In the meantime, you got your attorney just sits there and I don't know what he did. I guess I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this. Nobody does this way. Recently. Everybody is trying to open up the channels of communication between the public and a legislative body. Because the respect in America for legislative bodies is at an all-time low and getting lower every day. People like Mr. Cannon, pull it down when they know what they're doing is clearly wrong. Sort of making a comment before the proposition. We know what this one is, but we don't know how it got there. Dale Williams said how it got there, but I don't know how it got there. Nothing in the minutes. It says there was any kind of consensus on this board to put this in front of this board that would affect everybody in the general public. If you look at the Florida legislature and you go to those committee meetings, number one, everybody knows what's going on. Number two, I've yet to see a committee chairman that doesn't say, when the public comment is done, it's finished, completed, is there anybody else that would like to say something? Some committees that meet online and have online, ask if there's anybody in online that would like to make a comment. One must wonder how the public defender's office defended people when sometimes they can't even recognize who's in the audience. This is wrong. It's not well thought out. The public that attends this meeting in real time, Miss Lemmy's online. She's looking at the meeting in real time. When you don't see Mr. Wachter at the meetings, you look and you see the Lake City Reporter, the other news media outlet in this town, is online, viewing it in real time. Yet you don't want people that can't get off of work, that can't get down here on time, that want to take a public interest in what they're, even if you're appointed by the governor, legislative body is doing, to be able to make a comment in the real time, in the real world, like most everybody that can is going through. And go look at meetings in Alachua County. You guys are going backwards. If you ask your attorney how many meetings he goes to where that happens. So I'm respectfully asking that this be taped, not even taped, just withdrawn. It's working fine. This one we wanted to think, she raised a hand, you recognized her, anybody else could raise their hand, case closed. The only reason this is here is because Mr. Kennedy doesn't like public comment. So at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, what if it comes in at 1 o'clock? You're not gonna address the speaker? Comes in at 2 o'clock? Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Oh my God. There we go. Ms. Phil. You, Ms. Susan, you said that you said all topics, so I'm just checking
Right. Well,
on this topic, the rules and procedures for the speaker card for a Zoom meeting.
Well, it was, the only thing I'd like to reiterate, Susan Phillip, and the Laguna Drive in Lake City, is that there are a lot of people out there that can't get here before 5:15. And when I asked, could the meeting start a little bit later, you said, well, you come all the way from Branford, but I did get out of work until I counted the door, and if somebody shows up at 5 o'clock, I gotta stay. They meeting and I recap the drawer. So, most meetings don't start normally till like 6 o'clock. So 5:30 was all I was asking for, but that got voted down. And, I don't understand why there aren't more people here. Just because when you walk in the front door, you see a list of the board members, but it's from 1947 or something. And no one really knows who you are and where you are and what you're doing. And I just think there's room for improvement for the citizens as well as the board in trying to welcome people to come and be participants instead of saying, nope, you don't get off work on time, or which is a normal work day, 9 to 5. And I don't own a car, so I depend on my ride getting me over here. So I'm making an effort, but I guess it's impossible for me to get here at 15. And so I think that would be something to consider in the next time you think about trying to get participants to come and listen to what you have to say, but like Mr. Liger has said, I think I mispronounced your name.
Lilker.
Lilker. I think I agree with everything he says, and I think there's gotta be some kind of meeting ground. I agree with what she said, that people don't really, it's tax, they're just worried about the taxes. I don't think anybody begrudges the Lake Shore Hospital Authority if they're performing a job, but at this point, it's like, who are these people? What are they doing? What's their qualification? No one knows anything about you. So the fact that no one knows anything about you, I didn't even have to ask people to vote on that straw poll. 65% of the people said, who are these people in control? It's like ruling like how the Democratic Party in Washington rules by just appointing people that aren't elected, and they have all the power. And it seems like you're just one of those groups that aren't elected, and yet you have all the power to say yes or no and to vote 4-1. Lori's always against it most of the time, and you're 4-1. And it doesn't make women feel they have much of a say in what you say or what you vote, because she's always loses. If it's not 5-0, it's 4-1. At least
Thank
it's
you, Miss
my
Susan.
experience.
Appreciate it. Any additional comments? on this item? Got a hand raised? Who is it? I'm not seeing it.
Barbara's trying to get him.
Oh,
Two persons.
there we go. Miss Lonely, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You ignored me. Maybe if there'd been a speaker card, you would have known I wanted to discuss the straw ballot
There we
stuff.
go, exactly.
Sorry, I didn't see you.
Well, I waved both hands, but anyway.
Well, there's a button to click, just for the record, you gotta push the button.
I have a button when you say unmute. But anyway, you hear me now.
Yes, ma'am.
What I want to say is this board, if you continue doing what you're doing, you're avoiding the oath which you took to uphold rules and regulations. And if you have decided to give Palms money, you didn't give any of the others money up front. And considering what's going on with getting rid of the authority, I think it's an utter disregard for what the people have wanted to do. You just need to hold this in suspense and see what happens after the legislative delegation decides and the Senate and the House vote to dissolve this. But I don't think you should go giving away more money when the situation is in flux. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lumley. Any additional comments on the meeting rules and procedures for the speaker card? Okay. Questions of the board? Comments from the board? Sure. Mr. Deal.
I think it was the last meeting. I actually handed Stu my minutes from the last meeting. I brought it up at the end of the meeting about this because we talked about it during the organizational meeting in September.
Yes, I recall it.
October.
I recall it as well.
And so that's where it came from. And one of the commenters was saying nobody knows who we are. I work for another company in Columbia County, and I'm a volunteer on this board. We don't get paid. Yes, we are appointed. We're not elected. So yes, I work during the day, also come here in the evenings at least once a month to volunteer my time to this community. What makes me qualified? You'd have to ask former Governor Scott, Senator Scott. He's the one that appointed me. Everybody on this board was appointed. I promise I do not vote against Miss Lori because she's a female. I promise you I don't. And I also want to remind the public that in Columbia County, this is the only board that allows any interaction online. So I don't think that there's anybody in this room that is against public input. In fact, I think we're more open than the county commission, the school board, the city council, any other subcommittee of the county commission or the city council. We're allowing it. We're just asking for a little bit of organized chaos to say, hey, if you want to comment, let us be aware so that way you don't miss Miss Limley's previous comment when she wanted to comment on the previous item. I don't think that's unreasonable. I think it's a good thing to keep us organized. We're not saying, hey, we don't want to hear from you. Hey, we're not going to listen to you. If that's the case, if Miss Phillip is having a hard time getting here by 5:15, maybe she can fill that card out because she knows she's not going to be here at 5:15 before the meeting starts. And she's going to be here in person, but she's filling out the speaker card beforehand. We're not cutting off input from the public. We just want it to be done in an organized way more than any other entity in Columbia County does.
I agree. Hey, just my personal comment, we also voted to keep the Zoom meetings,
Right.
keep them going and keep them interactive. I remember specifically doing that too. I'm trying to help this, and as you all just saw, I missed apparently Miss Lemley's comments before this. So.
I think we need to recognize also the reason we need the cards is because every name of a person that comments is written in our minutes. And if we don't get a card, we might not get your name right.
Well, can I fill it out in advance of the meeting?
That's just what he was saying.
How do I do that?
We're discussing that now, was to make sure that it's available online and make it something simply to go to Miss Sonia. And then that way it's easier, because I mean, that's
fine.
when y'all come in late and somebody hands me a comment card, I make it happen. I even ask for questions afterwards. I don't. Runs the meetings a little longer, not popular, but it is what it is. I'm gonna, people have something to say, they're gonna say it. Mr. Kennedy.
Very briefly, we have rules. And it's titled Lakeshore Hospital Authority meeting rules and procedures, and we need to follow them.
Trying to, yes, sir.
And I know that you and Mr. Beal, our former chairman, have been very lax because it's stated in the rules. The completed speaker card must be submitted to the chair prior to the commencement of the meeting. That means those that are here present, and both of y'all have been very lenient on that, and I don't have a problem with that, but, and I'm sure, Mrs. Markham wouldn't have a problem if somebody called her before the meeting and said, I'm on my way, I'm gonna be there. Please let the chairman know that I would like to speak on the agenda items that I looked online at, and it's the following ones. I hate to ask you to take on that extra responsibility, but maybe you could do that. Period. Mr. Williams, any problems with that?
No.
I like the online card too. That'd be the best way for me.
Yeah.
10 seconds.
I was gonna say, let's pause for 3 minutes for a format disc to read more format, and I think we have a potty break for
Come Sally.
our mascot.
We need to use some of that money to buy a new recorder.
And I'm going to unmute, so we are back live. For our folks online, I know some folks were having trouble holding their hands. If you don't know how to do it or to raise your hand, if you move your mouse to the bottom of the screen, click on the react. They have a raise hand button there, and that is where you raise your hand on the Zoom. Okay, we were, pick up where we left off. I believe we were wrapping up discussion and possible action on the LSHA meetings, rules and procedures, policy amendment to provide for completion of a speaker card for the Zoom meeting. I think we've wrapped that up. I don't know if anybody had any follow-up comments, or I don't think we need any action, and I believe we can just,
You know, you need a motion
I
to
think we need a
approve,
motion.
to amend the.
we do,
policy, yeah.
okay, so we can't direct. All right,
Well, we don't have an updated policy though right now, do we?
Yeah, there's a,
Oh, it is in there.
We have
Yeah,
the policy,
it's in
it's
the
just,
packet
it's the
here.
addition of filling out the Zoom card like they do
Okay.
in
Chairman,
physical
It
presence.
was out of
I'd
order.
like to make a motion that we,
Did I get it?
amend the Lakeshore Hospital Authority meeting rules and procedures policy to provide for completion of a speaker card for the Zoom meeting participants, which is included here before us.
I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. On our next, second to last line item, discussion and possible action, approval of proposal from Johnson Controls to perform Lakeshore Hospital chiller annuals as sole source purchase.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to approve $11,032.75. This will be to do some maintenance work on the chillers at the hospital. And we're proposing to do this sole source through a company called Chiller Medic. Historically, this work has always been done by Johnson Controls, but recently the employees who primarily done this work for Johnson Controls left and are now employed by Chiller Medic. The quote they gave was actually a little less than last year. But nonetheless, we're asking for a sole source authorization, $11,032.75.
Okay. Yeah, I read that. So it's the same two fellows that have been servicing our chiller now over there.
That's right.
Okay. Before we do that, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting. Are there any public comments on this?
Yeah, I'd like to ask what a chiller is.
It's that giant
Is it
AC.
like a Halloween thing?
No, it's how the HVAC system for the hospital is run. So I'm gonna leave it at that. That's a wormhole.
Big air conditioner.
Yeah, big expensive air conditioner. Any other public comments? Okay. Any comments from the board? Thoughts? I, for one, think it's pretty important as a resident builder guy to keep the same set of hands and eyes on that thing. They probably can assess it a lot better than we can.
I'll second. Oh, I'm with the motion.
I can't.
Make the motion, I'll second.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the sole source proposal from Johnson,
Chiller Medic.
excuse me, from how do you call it? Chiller Annuals, right, as the sole source purchase for 11,000, whatever it was, dollars and cents. You need that for the motion, don't you? It's $11,032.75, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Have a motion on the table.
Second.
We have a second. Motion and a second to approve chiller annuals as a sole source purchase. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. Mr. Kinnon, we have this discussion of possible action for the disposition of real property to third parties.
Yes.
Let you take it away.
We, as you are aware, at the last meeting, we hired outside counsel to deal with this issue with the city. He sent his opinion to Mr. Rosenthal. Having not heard anything back from the city, I had and requested, I think he was gracious enough to do it, Mr. Arline, to send the follow-up letter. You should have in your packet, essentially outlining the, you know, it's costing us $50,000 a month to protect the premises, and we're essentially in a holding pattern with not only the Meridian deal, but with the other building or two that are affected by the zoning. So you have the letter Mr. Arline sent to Mr. Rosenthal. So my task, unless the trustees disagree, is I will coordinate with Mr. Arline and Mr. Williams, and we'll try to formulate a plan that option A, if the city says we were wrong, go ahead and go. Obviously, our decision is fairly easy. If they send us something back or don't send us something back, I would say between now and the start of the holidays, what would be our next course of action to keep the ball rolling. And so we've got the holidays, so essentially, you know, from about the 22nd, 23rd, everything's gonna be closed, most of that week. Come back and then have New Year's, so, I'll be coordinating those, conferences between myself, Mr. Arline and Mr. Williams, and if we need to bring in additional counsel or we'll handle it in our office, we'll at least have and be able to present to at the January meeting that this happened. We suggest this, or they told us we're not changing our mind, and so this would be our suggested course of action. So I want to have that ready at the January meeting.
Yeah.
Just like I say, that affects not only the Meridian, but also, I believe the building Palms wants. Is that right, Mr. Williams?
Yeah, it's included in the city's
Conforming.
non-conforming provision.
Before we comment on it, let's open that up to public comments. Anyone want to speak on this, the situation with the city, how Mr. Ken has been dealing with it? Okay. Anyone online, Mr. Loker? I didn't have anybody circle this.
Can I say something?
Yes, I'm just verifying real quick, just verifying public comments are exhausted on this. Both online and, okay. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Chance.
Mr. Cannon, could you notify us by email right after the first year, what our status is and what's happening before the meeting on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sure.
Mr. Bill.
And this may be directed towards Mr. Kennan. At the last meeting or the one before that, whenever this issue came up with the city, we had representatives from Meridian here, and we're discussing the contract. Can we continue those discussions and make sure that we're good with that? So whenever we get an answer, we're yes or no, we're able to go and not waiting another month to.
I'm gonna reach out to their attorney, and I was out of the office Wednesday through Friday of last week. And so I was coordinating this by phone, but I'm gonna get with Meridian's attorney tomorrow, provide them a copy with the follow-up and get their take on what we need to do next. Based on option A and option B, and make sure that we can at least have their contract and agreement sewed up from our point of view, between then and now.
And then, you know, I understand your hesitancy at that meeting to discuss it, because in that contract it says that we don't know of any land use issues or whatever. Our position is there are no land use issues. So if the city doesn't get back with us, or they say.
Well, and that's gonna be part of Meridian's take, because I would think from their point of view is we absolutely do have a zoning issue, whether we think we do or not. The power to be right now says essentially you can't do it. or if you, Meridian takes control, they can't operate a mental health hospital there because it'd be contrary to zoning. So that's one of the warranties and representations we're making in that agreement, is we're not aware of any potential adverse zoning. Well, we are aware of a potential I don't use the word potential, but there is that issue there and it is not resolved. And so we cannot make that warranty and representation in that agreement.
And
Now I may contact Meridian, they say, well, we feel comfortable, give it to us. And then we modify the contract to state the obvious fact that this is where we are with the city, and having full knowledge of that, they agree to do X, Y, and Z.
I'm sure they would probably be lobbying the legislators in the next session for funding for mental health services, and if this drags on, that will be impacted, and I hope we're keeping track that spend upwards of $50,000 to maintain and protect the premises. Well, we just authorized another $11,000 this month to service the children.
So, yeah.
I hope that we're keeping track of all those
Keep it alive.
expenses.
See it, yes, we have everyone, everyone.
That's fine. That's all my comment.
Uh, I feel like we have been backed in a corner. And from my memory, Mr. Arline, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Kennan sent a letter like on November the 19th, somewhere's right around there, and then now another letter on December the 6th, which was Friday. I would hope that the city management has received it by today or tomorrow. And I noticed that a copy was again sent to Mr. Scott Walker, who is and Clay Martin, who are the attorneys for the city. And Mr. Kennan, I know you are a very busy man, and I know you've got your I's dotted, T's crossed on how you're gonna handle this, but in looking at the calendar, today is the 9th. I was just wondering if maybe we could get a Christmas present from you, and you tell us before Christmas that they are going to pursue it, so that you will have your plan of action that you can proceed with before our meeting on January the 13th. By that, I mean, that's why they make the courts, and if we need to go ahead and institute court action, we need to do it.
Well, that's the intent of
Yes, sir.
these conferences, is if we still hear nothing,
Right.
then it's either gonna sit where it is now, or we're gonna take some action, and so that would be the discussion, and so y'all would know
Right.
what that was, how that procedure worked,
Yes, sir.
maybe a generalized budget for what it was, those kind of things. I wanna have that ready in advance.
And I remember last month, the assistant city manager, Mr. Johnson, was here, and we invited him, this board invited the city to come and give us a proposal on what they wanted to do, and we haven't even, Mr. Williams, you haven't heard from them about that, have you?
No.
No, and I would also like for the board to give direction to Mr. Kennan, if you choose, to also advise the city that on the interlocal agreement, which expired in February of 2024, almost a year ago, that we would like to let them know that that is done, ceased, and I guess we need to start taking over the maintenance, the mowing, and whatever else of those 12 lots that they had, so we can add that to one of our monthly expenditures too.
I will check with their legal counsel on that issue for you, Mr. Kennedy.
And if not, we need to proceed with legal action on that too. I don't like it that they backed us in a corner on this. It's a shame.
I agree.
And that's not a quote either.
And that doesn't require, that doesn't require a motion, we can direct
I
Mr. Kennedy to be
Just
prepared
wanted to get
for-
some feedback from the board members.
Yeah, that's what I needed, and to give you an idea that at some point, we can't just.
Ms. Johnson, how do you feel about that?
I think you're right. And I think I would appreciate it if he would pursue it.
Yeah, we need to, cause it's.
It's like a little child.
Yeah.
I can't have what I want, so let's see if we can back you this way and you'll give in.
That's quotes.
Hey,
I agree.
Need a quote for the headline.
Any other comments for you, or do we need to, we don't need to make that a motion, right?
No.
You got your direction to, yeah. There we go.
Looking forward to my Christmas present.
Yes, me too. Okay. Staff reports are in your packets.
I would like to point out that we have had one new person and 3 renewals showing that there are indeed people that qualify for our program in Columbia County.
yes.
Here, here.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I just wanted to point out there's 1 new one and 3 renewals, which proved what I said at the last meeting, that there are people that qualify for indigent care program.
Very observant. And there was 6 people on the Zoom meeting last month too, if you'll look at the minutes.
Any final comments, Ms. Chin?
I'd like to wish everybody happy holidays. I'm gonna celebrate Christmas. I don't know what everybody else is celebrating, but happy holidays.
Me too. I'll re-calendar Popeye and myself.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Any,
I'm just disappointed we still don't have cookies, but other than that, I'm good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just want to make sure that trustees are aware and have seen it. We did receive a letter from Dr. Barrett at Florida Gateway College. Apparently, they have reassessed what some of their future plans are, and that may or may not involve some of the properties owned by the authority. But I did want to make sure that you were aware that that letter had been received and that you had seen it. And of course, for anyone that has not received it, it too is available online. But that is something that we will add to the campus list of potential options, just where we can continue to see who may be interested in what properties. And in addition to that, I too would like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and I hope you have blessed holidays.
Appreciate it. On that, we'll adjourn.